everyone. This is Alex, Tom's oldest daughter from Two Dads Talking. Thanks for listening to my daddy and his friend Doug's podcast. And please like, share, and subscribe to this. Thank you.
Welcome to Two Dads Talking, everybody. It has been a whirlwind, if you will, the last couple of weeks. Just with everything going on, maybe someday we'll get to talk about those. I actually like to think that my whirlwind would soon qualify me to host another podcast for business advice / I will give you therapy for not burning down an Amazon distribution building, mostly because I can't figure out all the buttons. But that's a whole different story.
I'm picturing Office Space. Someone took your stapler.
Okay, that's the last straw.
Amazon took Doug's stapler.
But turns out we just kept paying him. They just missed it.
Welcome, everybody. It's been 3 weeks since we recorded. A little bit more, maybe 4 weeks.
Oh no, 3 weeks. We're still catching up on our recordings log, so we're getting closer to real time, and that will be fun when we actually get there. Feel like a real boy.
Yeah, last time we recorded was March 13th. Today is April 3rd, so yeah, 3 weeks.
Yeah, it'll be fun to actually comment on something that's actually happening, and then have it actually be listened to within about a week. That would make good. We're fine. What was it, like 4 weeks ago? It was just like, so how are our NFL teams going to do this year? Because we're like 5 months behind.
Yeah, we'll be closer to real time. If we can find an editor, and if anyone's listening who wants to take a shot at editing for us, we're willing to pay you. We're not going to ask you to do something for free. We believe in paying people for their services. But if anyone's listening who's got editing experience and would like to try an episode and see what they do, reach out and let us know. We would be very curious to hear, what one of our listeners could do for the cast. The email is 2dtpod@gmail.com. That's the number 2, Delta Tango, POD, @gmail.com. And if you've got some audio editing experience or even video editing experience and you want to try your hand at this, I'm sure you can handle that. Give us an email. Let us know. We are officially looking. Doug has got way too much stuff going on in his life to spend 5 hours per episode editing. It's just not working. So generous. It's just not working anymore. And eventually, if I can get him to stop editing, then, we can start making some money on this thing, and maybe I can keep him around, because he was flirting with the idea of leaving me, and you guys can't let that happen. You don't want to be stuck with just Tom. That's not fun. Talking to myself is not something anyone's going to listen to voluntarily. So keep Doug on the cast. Like Doug. Help us find an editor. Refer people. Recommend people. We want Doug.
Is it bad that there is a part of me now that wants like a flood of emails to come in to be like, yes, go away, Doug?
Yes,
just to be
bad.
Like, that's right, Tom, you were wrong.
That's pretty bad. Yes, that's not allowed. This has become my therapy. Yeah. I can't go without this. This is not going to work for me. So we got to keep Doug around. We got to keep the podcast going. Even if no one ever listens to this, I need to keep this going because this has become my therapy. We just talked for about 45 minutes before we even started recording tonight. This is like my only guy talk time. I don't have any other time to talk with guys and tell stories.
It's true. Yeah. Well, thank you for dragging the elephant out of the room right away. Because it was already, like I've said before on previous episodes, it was already kind of tough editing. I do think some of it is self-inflicted just because I'm no professional. I'm not using like any version of professional software, trying to teach my stuff as I go. But the other company that I am a part of is starting to finally, we're trying to do a real pickup the last couple of weeks. And as it turns out, Tom, as you know, when you're running a business, it takes up a lot of time. So I kept staring at these things, not getting to editing them for a week, 2 weeks at a time, just because I'm working on other stuff and trying to focus on that. So trying to see if we can still keep this going, but we need some editing help. So if anyone's out there willing to take a shot at it, we'd definitely love to have you.
It all ties back to something we've talked about a couple of times. It's how you fill your cups. Eventually you've got to make hard decisions on what cups you're going to fill. You only have so much energy, and you've got all these different cups in front of you that you're expected to fill. and you just have to make a hard choice. And we don't want Doug to choose to give this up. I don't want Doug to choose to give this up. So
Royal we.
So if you like me, I don't care if you like Doug or not. If you like me, we need to
That's
keep Doug
right.
here.
Come to the dark side.
What is beeping
Send your own email. Something's beeping at you?
Yeah, I've got this shrill beeping in my ear. Oh, it's the timer that I set. Well, that's fun. Apparently, when I started the stopwatch timer, it also started an actual timer, and it just started beeping in my ears. Well, that's fun. All right. Yes, keep Doug. We like Doug. We, the Royal We, want to keep Doug a part of this. This is good for my soul and probably my mental health. So keep Doug in the loop. Find us an editor. And, maybe I'll send someone a t-shirt if they send me a good referral. I'll tell you what, I will. If you find me a good referral and it's someone that works with, I will send you a Two Dads Talking t-shirt. Short sleeve or long sleeve, your choice. You pick it. You can see our media through the merch link on our website. You can pick the one you want, and I will send it to you if your referral works out. That'll come straight from me. I'll sign it if you want.
It's also in the show notes for any of the other episodes that are out right now. And you know what? I'll sweeten the deal too. Tom will pay for it. You won't even have to pay for the shirt that you want.
I feel like that was obvious and kind of implied, but yes, I will. He's right. Yes, I will.
It'll be free.
It'll be free to you. All you have to do is make a good referral that works out. It'll be free to you. We do have our Gen 2 merch up live now with some new logos. There's another one I'm working on that'll be probably live on Friday with some updated and different stuff. And then next week, I'm expecting a really big launch with our Get to Week 11 t-shirt and a couple of dad joke t-shirts. I think that's actually happening next week. So by the time this podcast goes live, that'll definitely be up. Join our Patreon, find it. We'll put a link in the show notes. Find it, help us out. $3.50 a month buys us a cup of coffee and helps us pay for the editor that you're going to refer to us. So please do that. Help us out. And like us, share us, review us, all that nonsense. We got it out of the way. We can finally get to the good stuff. Hi, Doug. Missed you.
Yes, missed you too. The mug actually looks really good. And I'm not trying to sit here and just be like, oh, I'm gonna like vaguely promote this one product. No, I actually think the mug looks really good with the Gen 2. I really like it. Also, I was thinking about that. So everyone, we sit there and we say, like us, review us, follow us, rate us, tell us about your friends. Don't give us your firstborn, but we'll talk about that later. Like, we try to jump all these things on you, and really we're just looking for one or two things. I think reviews are probably the biggest driver for stuff right now, right? That usually gives the most exposure. So if you have to pick one, we would just say leave us a review. Doesn't have to be anything. You can just click the stars, and I think that's what really will help get us further along there, because we are, as we've said before, trying to turn this into a thing that becomes, for lack of better phrasing, sort of a platform that everyone can go to for just anything, for different services or networking or whatever else. We do want to give back, and it's looking like it's been hard to research this, by the way, but it's looking like reviews might be the best algo driver for stuff like that. So if we're going to harp on one,
you're in, but yeah,
I think it does too. But if we're going to pick one, especially like on Apple Podcasts or something like that, we would appreciate even just a quick no text review. So thanks.
Yep, we do appreciate it. Shares are also very helpful. If you can share us on social media when you see the cast, share that, help us spread it, help other people find us. We appreciate it. And now on to the good stuff.
Yeah. So speaking of energy and filling your buckets and not being able to do much, do we want to go right to our presidential candidates and just jump the shark, screw the pooch?
Yeah, this was a hot button topic, and I was so fired up for it 3 weeks ago, and then we haven't touched anything, and I haven't even looked at politics much in the last couple of weeks, but I don't think I need to. I feel like my resentment...
this is going to be good.
I feel like my resentment here is kind of evergreen at this point, and I think we just go for it.
Tom is going to be railing with zero research. It's going to be perfect.
Yeah, and I'm good with that. I'm totally good with that. I'm drinking whiskey and Coke for Doug. I'm trying to drink what he normally drinks, so we mixed it up a little bit tonight. And
what whiskey? What whiskey, by the way?
Knob Creek. I wanted to use Maker's Mark because they're now my favorite. Unfortunately, I do not have a bottle of Maker's Mark. Ever since Krista's Hobbit experience, the Maker's Mark has got a special place in my heart, and that's a bottle I need to put in my cupboard. But I'm not a big whiskey guy. I drink rye mostly, so I need to go out and buy a bottle.
Okay. What Coke?
Just Coke. It's not your
basic.
Coke Zero. I'm sorry.
That's a very basic bitch of you.
I'm like 500 calories under my calorie budget for the day, so I decided to splurge and go full bore Coke. So we're good.
Okay. Well, I found So I'm doing just a regular Coke Zero. I'm kind of being nearly basic myself with no extra flavor.
No foo-foo, French vanilla, cherry beret,
You know,
sniffy sniff, nasal accent Coke.
okay, again, I have to, I'm going to preface everything I say tonight with this. Apologies to anyone who disagrees with me on this, but the vanilla Coke was just awful. I'm sorry. I have people like my father who used to drink it, who I normally respect, but I couldn't understand how anyone liked that. The vanilla Coke or whatever that came out years ago when they first did was garbage. I hated that stuff. No one actually liked it. I stand by that. But I decided to I did want to just explore a few more whiskeys, a few more bourbon whiskeys. And so I started doing the thing where I go into any store and I talk to the person behind the desk and I'm like, so I'm sure you get this question a lot, but what's good, but also like super cheap? Because I'm not going to like explore whiskeys at like $80 a bottle. I'm going to try to explore some other stuff, cheaper first. But it's also just to get the lesser known stuff, that's more niche that people find their one drink and like. And what I've come across this last time is this, it's called Old Crow. And again, I'm not well versed in alcohol at this point, but I hadn't heard of it. But apparently, a lot of restaurants use it as just like a general well bourbon or well whiskey. And, like in one sense, you're getting what you pay for. It's not some like extra zesty taste or anything like that, but it's, for a mix, it's pretty good. I have to admit, I got a second bottle just to make sure I wasn't lucky the last time, and it's been pretty good. So that's what I'm drinking tonight.
As long as you're happy with it, what else matters, right?
Right. Other than my rights as an American and a presidential candidate who will back me up.
Yeah, good luck finding one of those.
Yeah, he already dropped out. The closest.
All right, so tonight we're talking politics. If we haven't figured that one out, we are talking politics tonight. It's going to happen. We had told ourselves this wasn't going to be a political podcast, and we weren't going to do that. And you know what? Screw it. We just decided, why not?
I'll start going downhill the first night I didn't wear a collared shirt, like we also agreed on.
Nope, I've decided that the hoodie and the hat are my brand now. I've gone there. This is much more my brand. Once we start putting these videos up on YouTube, this is definitely me, and I'm gonna keep it 100, as they say. Yeah, I'm getting that good cringe. I love it.
I know. Well, actually, I'm just wondering how you spell it, just in case it's any different than the correct spelling of hunted.
Well, it's Hunnid, hunted.
Wait, a D?
Yeah.
Are you just trolling me right now?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
This is why Doug shows up and why he'll never leave me. He shows up for the trolling. That's really what he loves.
It's true.
I'm usually pretty good and pretty subtle about it. I don't think anyone else in his life actually has that subtle level of trolling that I get to display with him here. I think he likes it. Might turn him on a little bit.
I'll never tell. All right, let's get to it. Because I don't really have, to be honest, I don't have, I've said these words before. I don't really have much of an opinion. I don't really have much to say. And then I end up talking for 30 minutes. But I am, and just to get right into kind of the thing we were leading into with tonight, I am extremely disappointed in how our presidential race is shaping up again this year. Extremely disappointed. I have said before how the first time around with Trumpy Trump that it would have been hilarious if it was Hillary versus Trump. But part of the reason that was hilarious was I thought it would never happen, because I thought Hillary was so thoroughly unlikable that maybe they actually would not let her get her shot. And I thought Trump was just so ridiculous that there's no way he would actually make it all the way through because he's ridiculous. And then it happened, and it was funny, and we got Trump, which was even funnier. And then I had kind of wanted Trump, like I did, like we talk about how you vote for somebody or you vote against somebody. I really did vote for Trump because I really did think this dude is so full of himself that he might actually make good decisions because he wants to be remembered as a great president. And so I thought, even if I don't agree with everything he does, he's going to do things that a lot of people will actually like because, that's his shtick. He's, been in pop culture. He understands what people like and don't like and how to get attention. And he would want to feed his ego. But man, after the last go around when he lost, I mean, he just was even he it was like he took all the bad stuff of his bravado and just like cranked it up to 11 and just did like the narcissism in my mind has just been blazing through every time now. So I really didn't want to see him again if I had my druthers. And now I'm sitting here looking at that and I can't bring myself to vote for Biden either. I don't know what all everyone here is watching because I know it can definitely be filtered based on what channels you get your stuff from. And I don't mean TV channels too. I just mean like any medium. But there is clip after clip after clip where Biden is clearly he just doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know where he is. And I mean, some of them are fleeting, some of them are a lot of them are only a few seconds, but it is painfully obvious if you're just being honest with yourself. The man is not in charge. He's not. It's clear as day. He's not making significant decisions. I cannot vote for a guy like that. If the Democrats were even remotely smart and put someone else, not Kamala Harris, by the way, not her, because she is the queen of nothing salad. She will talk for 2 minutes, and if you look at the transcript, she said nothing. I can't vote for that either. I just can't. But like seriously, you guys don't have one. Even what was his name? And I guess this is where I didn't have anything to say. My short version was just I don't like either of them. I'm probably not going to vote for either of them. But now I'm sitting here thinking that was it Andrew Yang? Was that his name?
From the Democrats? Yeah. Yang, I don't know if it was Andrew or not, but I know who you're talking about. He's a real young Asian. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was the one who had he got shot down because he wanted to give a living, not a living wage, but a supplemental.
He wanted to do the like 10,000 a year to everybody, kind of like purely socialist, universal basic income kind of thought process.
Yeah, but he's split off from the Democrats now. He's in his own party now. Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing. This is what I'm trying to, what I would like to tell people out there with how upset and frustrated I am with where things are headed this way was Andrew Yang is a perfect example of a guy that I would entertain voting for, even though quite literally, I don't think there's a single policy thing that I would agree with him on, because the vibe I was getting from him was that he did give a shit and he would actually try stuff. He would actually like try to do something that he thinks would work, not because he's trying to get votes, but because he thinks it might work. I disagree with everything he did, but he was also one of those people that made a round on a lot of the right-wing podcasts and talk shows and everything too. And he talked to people and he listened to their questions and he listened to them poo-poo some of his policy ideas. And he kind of said in so many words, like, you can disagree with me, but this is just what I think. And I was like, man, I really want to vote for this guy. And then he didn't even make it through, obviously. So there wasn't even a decision to be made. But like, I'm looking at Joe Biden, or I still don't know how to pronounce her name, Kamala, whatever, Harris. I'm looking at them and Trump. And like, if an Andrew Yang showed up, I mean, the only thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to vote for Yang or I'm going to vote for nobody. But like, that's how you get a vote, like from me, which, you know, is someone who never thought I'd ever vote for a staunch Democrat in my lifetime.
Woosah.
Yes, take a deep breath. Wax on, wax off.
Woosah. Here's where I stand. I think we've already established a little bit where I stand with our current government situation and how I feel we are no longer a democratic republic. We are certainly not a democracy. We're falling somewhere short of those goals. What we have is just a hair short of a totalitarianistic. I can't. Wow, this whiskey's getting me apparently. Totalitarian.
I feel like you're trolling me again. Can I please help you for the
yes, please help me.
Actually, hold on. Let me type how to determine seizures. Totalitarianist.
Thank you. Totalitarianist.
That's I think what you're trying to say.
That's exactly what I was trying to go. I
automatically disagree. I think oligarchy, but continue.
Sure. And then that's okay too. And I could be swayed to that, especially seeing that's actually probably a more interesting take, because what happened with Russian oligarchs and where they are now is probably a peek into our future. So that's interesting. What we have right now is not what we're supposed to have. And we've essentially got a system set up where two parties remain in power with no one there to threaten their power or minimize their power or really do anything to upset the balance. And they hand it back and forth, and they get paid obscene amounts of money to hand power back and forth and play good cop, bad cop for 4 years or 8 years at a time, over and over and over again. And we are so deeply entrenched in this system that it has now become acceptable on their parts to just throw the two shittiest candidates possible at us and say, this is who you guys get to go vote for. Deal with it. We don't care. And that's the best we can do. There, I saw an article, and I really hoped, I thought it was an Onion post at first. I never got to go back and read it in depth. I hope to God it's real. Someone changing his name legally to anybody else, or literally anybody else is what he changed his name to, because that's who people are going to be writing into the polls and he wants to get elected. I hope to God it's true, because it's brilliant. Because I may just go to my poll and write literally anybody else in the write-in, and I hope this guy gets enough votes that it gets attention. I would, and I'm not even joking when I say this, I would honestly take a random American that I know nothing about, that could be absolutely anywhere on any spectrum in this country's moral and ethical rating scale. I would take a random human being who is a citizen of the United States over the age of 35 over either of these two presidential candidates that we're going to have. Literally any random one. And I would take my chances. And I would feel confident that I would like him better than either of these candidates. I'm insulted, or her. I am insulted by the fact that the Democratic Party is putting out Joe Biden as a, quote, progressive option. The guy, when you watch him on TV and you look at anything he has done with any level of critical eye, is going through senility. He's going through what people happen when they get to a certain age and their mental acuity breaks down and their physical abilities break down. He's going through that. And that's not a thing to be ashamed of. That's not something to be made fun of. It's not something that we need to hide. That is a normal part of being a human being who lives to be 80 plus years old. That's what happens. Deal with it. Shut up. Stop telling me I'm attacking his character. This is what happens when you get over 80 years old. There is a reason we've never had two different candidates whose age equals 150 some odd years plus run for president before. After a certain age, you slow down mentally. You slow down physically. You need more help making decisions. You're not as good on your feet. You're not as articulate as you are. That's where Joe is. Okay. That's where President Biden is right now. This is just a fact. If you're insulted by this fact and you're taking, you're going to inflame up and curse and swear and rant and rave and call me names, you're an idiot. And it's just that simple. This is how we age and this is what happens. Okay. The way he handled things from his earliest days as president, the Afghanistan withdrawal in particular, pissed me off. And they showed a shameful inability to execute the duties of that office. And when I say shameful, I mean the word shameful. It was embarrassing. And it was painful to me in an emotional way as a soldier who's deeply entrenched in our conflicts in the Middle East. It pissed me off. Now I watch him get on camera and say something, and a week later say he didn't say it and not remember it, and do things that are extremely inappropriate and not realize that he's done something that was inappropriate. He can't read the room. He bans religious ceremonies from the Easter egg contest on Easter Sunday. And then when he gets backlash, comes out a week later and says, no, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. Are you in charge or are you not in charge? Do your orders come from you or do they come from someone else? There are a lot of conspiracy theories that other people are pulling the strings, that he's not the one making decisions. And you know what? Where there's that much smoke, there's probably some fire. I think I would look very carefully at who's actually making decisions right now, because the things that are happening when he's not on camera versus the pandering, mumbling, stumbling, can't handle anything that's not on a screen president that's talking when he is live on camera, they're two very different people. And that troubles me. He's an embarrassing candidate. And the fact that Democrats didn't find someone better and didn't get him to step down tells me that they're just pulling the strings on him and he's playing their game and they're happy to keep it that way for now. It's embarrassing if you're a Democrat that your party says that is the person you should turn to with the state of the world right now to lead our country through the next 4 years. It's an insult. And if I was a Democrat, I'd be pissed about it. On to the next one, as Jay-Z says, Donald motherfucking Trump. This knucklehead is the opposite of Joe Biden in almost every way. Okay, if these were characters in a book, I would write them the way that they are in real life because they're natural foils to one another. As much as old Joe is an old, pedantic, stumbling, aging, breaking down, decrepit has-been politician, Donald J. Trump is this old ass man, but inside he is a juvenile child, incapable of putting a filter in place, of waiting to get his reward, of controlling his mouth. All he seeks is self-approval and self-ego attainment. He is terrifyingly narcissistic in the things that he does and says, and just has no concept, kind of like old Joe, of what's going on in the room around him. Where old Joe is too damn old to be in office, somehow Trump manages to be old physically and a goddamn teenager emotionally and mentally. He has no constraint. He has no restraint. He has no control. The man is all about himself. When you get into shouting matches and you're calling people names on a public stage and you are the leader of the free world, you need to check yourself. In no world is that something a good leader does. I know a little bit about leadership. Corporate, military, however you want to talk about it. I know a little bit about it. And what Trump's doing is not leadership. That's just my emotional gut check reaction to Donald Trump. Kind of, that's the service level stuff. On the more practical side, he has more upcoming court cases and lawsuits and trials than he's going to have Senate sittings, okay, or House sittings over our government. He is going to spend more time in a courtroom dealing with this nonsense. Or option B, he's going to say, I'm the president, I don't have to go, and we're going to have to deal with that nonsense while the judiciary system tries to figure out if he actually has to go or not, and no one's going to know. And his last day in office, I hope to God, because I think he's going to get elected, the last day in office, I hope he pardons himself in advance for anything they want to try him for, because I would love to see how that shakes out. And I want America to have just the most absolutely absurd, extreme, ridiculous situation to deal with when this is all said and done, so they can realize how fucking stupid they were for voting for either one of these two ass clowns in the first place. This shit is ridiculous. I am embarrassed for my country right now, and I'm scared for its future, because no matter who you pick right now, I don't think either one of these candidates can handle what's going on in the world around us. I really don't. Putin and Trump's relationship troubles me a little bit. Joe Biden's inability to handle any level of conflict with strength and articulate speech, that troubles me a little bit. I don't think we have a good path out of the crap that we're in right now. And I don't know what that answer is, what the path looks like, but neither one of these guys is going to find it. And the ultimate fear I have, it boils down to this. Biden is a puppet. He is a man who has all the power in our country right now and none of the ability to wield it. And that scares me. Trump wants all of the power in the world and has shown he does not want to give it up. In fact, the quote that he had that really troubled me was when he was talking about the governors, and he said, something along the lines of, and somebody can fact check this, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, when you're the president of the United States, the authority is total. It's all of it, and that's the way it's got to be. The governors know that, and they'll fall in line. That is a horrifying, terrifying thing for a president to say if we're not at war with a system based on checks and balances. It's awful. And I honest to God feel like that juvenile child trapped in an old man's body is just as dangerous and bad for us as the ancient old man puppet whose strings are being pulled by the Democratic Party. Both candidates suck. Both are embarrassing. And if you serve this country and if you actively contribute to the greatness in this country and you're trying to do something positive in this country, you should be embarrassed that your party, Republican or Democrat, said this is the best choice we're going to give you. It is shameful.
Well, I found the link with Trump's quote.
Was I close?
Yeah, actually, it was part of a interview. So I'll get the quote out of the way just so you can have it. So it says, it was a reporter kind of going back and forth with him, and it was, when you say my authority, the president's authority, not mine because it's not me. That is, when somebody is the president of the United States, the authority is total, and that's the way it's got to be. Your authority is total, it's total, and the governors know that. So if the governors know that, then that's just kind of, that's mostly it. It's just saying the governors know that. So, sorry, I'm deliberately pausing just to make sure I get this right.
No, that's fine. That stops me from going on another rant about how divisive these guys are and how antithetical they are to what our country's supposed to be. And all the silly surface level things I'm saying without empirical evidence behind it spares me from going down that road again, which I appreciate.
Right. Well, I did want to comment on when you talk about the Joe being the progressive candidate. It is kind of funny to even call him a progressive, considering the fact that he's literally been in federal government for 40 years, 45 years, whatever it's been now. It's kind of hard to say he's going to bring about change when he's been a senator and up for decades.
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing with, the types of like Pelosi and all of them. They've been around for so long. If you want something to change, you should not be reelecting them. You should be almost electing random person.
Right. It's like people don't understand what progressive means anymore. They don't understand that it means evolving and changing.
And it is a little bit of a conspiracy theorist side of me. All of the Trump lawsuits, at first I just thought it was just all part of the show. Trump sees it as a way to play the victim. And so I don't want to say he's like happy to go through it, but he'll find the silver lining for sure and try to turn it around to his advantage. And the Democrats, can keep playing the card of, hey, we're trying to take down big bad Trumpy, and their people will like that too. But I recently developed the thought that somehow maybe it's just a little bit more of that dance like we were talking about. You talk about we have two parties, they keep changing the baton back and forth just to maintain their power. I'm more of the opinion that it's portrayed as two parties and it's actually, a lot of like power players and everyone else just knowing whose coattails to ride if they want to be part of the club. I think that's really what's happening here. You can't tell me that each bill for aid that goes to Ukraine, where somehow magically 55% of that comes back into campaign contributions for people who voted on it, when you actually track the money, you can't tell me that all those funds magically coming from Ukrainian sponsors and donors, that this isn't a deliberate, like essentially money laundering, and they're just using the war as a cover or a front for it. But I think my big concern with Trump now is that at some level if he wasn't before, he definitely now is part of the club. They may not necessarily be officially part of the club where they're meeting behind closed doors and having a good time together, but it just feels like he has all these lawsuits. His Mar-a-Lago home gets appraised crazy low from what it actually should be, which, as a appraiser, you can talk to a zillion things that can go into those decisions. But when other homes in the area are selling for more and his is like the nicest in the whole area, that just doesn't, you literally can't have that. It's a bad appraisal. But then he has the bond that's crazy high, and then magically it gets lowered to 20% of what it was before. It's still a big number, but if it was a real bond decision in any shape or form beforehand, there's no way it gets lowered that much without some extra manufacturing, or unless that was the plan the whole time, to go from whatever it was 455 or something to like 115 or whatever it is now. You don't have swings like that unless there's been planning and thought behind this from the beginning. So I just think it's some weird, at least pseudo, like wink, wink, nudge, nudging each other from across the room way. They're part of the club, and they're just having fun at this point. Trump knows that he'll get a lot of people to cover it. He knows it's going to drum up support for him. They know it's going to drum up support for them. Whoever wins just has more incensed, volatile people supporting them, and they get to keep, cutting the checks and having them come back. That's it. Where I'm left with is stuff like, because I was curious to see what DeSantis would look like if he got a little bit more push and a little bit more time out there, because he went right back to Florida and has just continued to do stuff and just seemingly fix things. So did he just not get enough support and just decide to bow out? Did he smell this out and like just say he didn't want any part of it? Like, what's going on there? I have no idea.
I think as soon as Trump re-entered the conversation, I think as soon as he became a serious candidate to run again, all of the other Republican candidates kind of understood that this is not going to be their year. Trump supporters are so diehard and just so loud about it that even if someone else had a good chance to be elected in the Republican Party, you wouldn't know about it until it came, the polls, because everyone just shouts Trump, and the guy shouting the loudest in the room is the one that gets the attention. How often do you see that in life? And that's just what this is. And for the most part, Trump supporters are the loudest. That's just what it is. I don't know anybody who passionately and energetically embraces Joe Biden. I don't know anybody who is excited about Joe Biden, but I do have a lot of friends who are excited for Donald Trump. And I think there is a difference there. And I think that there's something to that. And I think as soon as he decided he was going to run, I think all the other Republican candidates probably let out a real sad groan and just went, all right, screw it. I guess this isn't going to be my year. But DeSantis, I was interested in. I really was. And he said some things when he first started getting on the stage and opening his mouth that I was like, oh, maybe you're not the candidate I thought you were. But I was very interested in DeSantis. I really was. Nikki Haley, honestly, if she had the Republican nod, I'd vote for Nikki Haley. I actually liked a lot of what she had to say, too. There were some things there, again, that I was like, I don't know. But here's the thing. If you're actually looking at each candidate and you're honestly looking at them, I've got friends who yell at me about this for years, because every year when election time comes, I say, if you're not educated, you don't know things about the person you're voting for, please don't vote. Just show up and don't vote. Just don't bother. I hate this stupid, everyone needs to go out and vote, even if they don't know anything. That is the dumbest opinion I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, I hate that. And I've been saying it for years. And if you're actually researching these people and seeing where they stand and seeing where they align on materials and issues that matter to you and to America, because sometimes those two things aren't the same, then you're not going to agree with any one candidate 100%, right? It just makes sense that there are going to be some things, just like my wife. There's not a person on this planet that I love and care for and choose to be a partner to any more than my wife. But there are things that we do not agree with. You're on the list. Don't worry. You're there. You're close. But even my wife and I don't see everything 100%. We don't agree on everything. That would be boring. So if you can't possibly agree with a candidate on everything that they say, how is it you could possibly agree with a party and agree with everything they stand for 100%? It's just stupid to me to vote on party lines. And people are not willing to look at a candidate, and Trump supporters are just more fervent and just more excited. And yeah, I'm pissed about the last 4 years too. I'm really upset about how this has gone down. Well, 3 years, I guess. It's not quite 4 yet. I'm really pissed about what we've had since Biden's been president. But we overcorrect so badly in this country. It's a cultural problem that we have. We do it in every way. It's every time there's a bad headline for an officer doing something, that he shouldn't do, all of a sudden the whole country takes up arms and defund the police, and all police officers are evil. Every single time we hear about something with a church, religion is evil, all priests are bad, all people are evil. Every time we hear about any one thing that goes wrong, we don't just take it and look at it and say, let's get context, let's figure out what the problem is and address it. We say, oh, that happened. Let's turn the steering wheel completely in the opposite direction and hit the gas and see what happens. And we do so much damage in this country. We're doing, the progressives are shooting themselves in the feet right now with some of the things they're choosing to stand for and some of the hills they're choosing to die on. And the conservatives are about to do the same thing to themselves. And it blows my mind that we are so incapable of individual and contextual thought, that we are just so lazy, and we just want to take the quick emotional latch and say, nope, I'm a Democrat, I'm voting for this guy. Nope, I'm a Republican, I'm voting for that guy. I don't understand it. I just don't get it. And so I hope we get a shit show. And I hope whoever gets elected, if it's Biden, I hope he screws things up to no end for 4 years so that we can shake the system up somehow. And if it's Trump, I hope that he chooses to pull a Putin and try not to relinquish power and stay in office another 4 to 8 years because we need him, and create a shit show. Whatever happens, I hope we get some really wackadoo, crazy, extreme resolution that points out the fallacy of the system so that we can fix it, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take something that threatens the Republican and Democratic power hold and the stranglehold on our government. And it's going to take something so ridiculous that the American people can't turn their backs on it in order for us to fix what we have. But we turned our back on aliens, we turned our back on UFOs and said, yeah, whatever, we don't care.
Wow, I never thought it was going to end up there.
Oh man, I'm still mad about that. But if that's the case, I mean, I hate to say it because I don't like being a defeatist, but I have lost hope for our government and possibly for the future of this country. I really have. And it makes me sad to say that. I've literally bled for this country. And it makes me really sad to say that. But I don't see where we're going ending anywhere positive. It's just where I'm at.
All the world is stage.
And we, the players.
Yes, I think I found a good way to explain exactly how I feel about this. Why I also think at some level it's all just a charade or a little back and forth game that they're just all playing with us. Considering how things, and I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking to, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on in any social, economic, moral, ethical, whatever. With how things went with Trump at the end last time, at the end of his term, how much support / attention, including from his own people helping him, would he get without these lawsuits? He would be at best a sideshow. He was until the lawsuits. He had his little Truth Social thing going on there. People were occasionally following it and saying, hey, look at the stupid thing Trump said this time. And there was like 2.5 years of that. Then suddenly, magically, lawsuits show up from his opponents. And it gets to be a big Banana Republic opposition targeting kind of thing. Except unlike a Putin or another kind of country or region like that, Trump has not had a mysterious death in a hotel room in the middle of all this stuff. He's still somehow magically very prominent and getting a whole lot more support and groundswell now. And that only happened after the lawsuit started. So again, I think there's some very deliberate stuff happening here. If we're going to contend that the parties are actually competing against each other, they should have just let him drift off into crazy old person mouthing off on his own social network, old age. They should not have given him anything more to, more fodder essentially for his supporters, because they were running out of steam. He was already out. Everyone else was trying to move on from him. They let him back in. You can't tell me that these people didn't do that on purpose. On the flip side, excuse me, if Joe Biden if suddenly Joe Biden just croaked or resigned or whatever tomorrow, would anything change? I think even people who support Biden, who at least on the outside claim that he's still the guy running things, I think if you're honest with yourself for even 1 second, you'll see that it wouldn't really change anything. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. He shows up, he gives a speech. No, he doesn't have the groundswell, like you were saying. He doesn't have the even the people going after him. I mean, he shows up to galas and people don't even talk to him for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. Like, it's on camera. So I think that shows the state of both sides. Joe's not running anything, and Trump would be nothing without these lawsuits. So that's why I think it's all, wink, wink, at minimum, wink, wink, nudge, nudge up there. But I feel like this amount of coordination, there has to be at least unelected people in certain positions who are meeting behind closed doors, like so-and-so's staffer's assistant meeting with other so-and-so's staffer's assistant, and just take good notes. Here's what we're going to do, because our actual bosses can't actually be seen together. Otherwise, the whole charade drops. A vote for one of them is a vote for the other, is really what I'm saying. A vote for either 100%. One is a vote for, what do they say? Like, it's not the same but different. It's like I can't remember what it is, but it's like it's the same thing. It just has a different mask. That's it.
I think the only thing I would disagree with is your take on the January 6th riots. I know a lot of, almost all of the Trump supporters I know still claim that there was nothing wrong with that. That there was nothing wrong with that it was a peaceful protest and there was nothing wrong with it. I had an argument with a friend of mine who is a diehard Trump supporter, and I said, I don't know what I said about it. I said something about the casualties and that they were unacceptable, that there hadn't been casualties committed in the Capitol building like that in a long time. And he said, no one got hurt. No one died. It was all fake. It was peaceful protest. And we pulled up the number, like, dude, it's been recorded. And I love this guy. He's a very good friend of mine, has been for a long time. Every single argument / debate we've had for the last 3 years has gone something like this. He makes a claim, I claim the opposite. We talk about it. I bring up facts, and he goes, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. But yeah, whatever. You're right, but I still don't agree. That's how it goes every time. But with the Capitol riot, he told me no one was killed. And I said, no, it's not true. There was an officer killed. There was a person shot by an officer that was killed. There was someone that was trampled. There was someone who had a couple of strokes within like 8 hours afterward when he was sprayed twice with pepper spray. Tell me that's not related. Go ahead. And we had this debate. And at the end of it, he still, after we looked things up and shared and talked about it that way, and I gave empirical data-driven evidence, he was still like, yeah, but there was really nothing wrong with the January 6th. I don't remember what he called it. He called it a protest. The Trump supporters really believe that. Like the ones that I see, it's really hard for me to fathom how people can take empirical data and set it aside and just choose not to believe something that is pretty clearly fact. But I see that more with Trump supporters than I do anyone else. And like I said, Biden supporters, they don't have any enthusiasm. They know he's a jackass. They know he's not the right guy for it. But I really think it's just but we hate Trump more, and so this guy's better than Trump kind of thing. Trumpers love him for some reason, and I don't understand it. I had high hopes for him when he first ran. For years, I had said, what we need is some businessman, some mogul who doesn't need the money and who knows how to run a business. That's what we need to run this country, not a politician. And when Trump ran the first time, I voted for him, and I was super excited. Like, this could be really good for us. I did not vote for him the second time. I will not vote for him again because he's not what I wanted him to be. He was neither the hero I wanted nor deserved.
Good reference, Batman. Interesting. I was not talking about the January 6th at all. I was just talking about, in general, Trump playing things up like a steal and all stuff.
Oh, okay. Then I apologize. In that case, I agree with everything you said. Even
it's
if
fine.
I didn't apparently understand it all the way. Doug for president, 2024.
Oh, God, please don't. Anyone not named Trump or Biden, but also named Doug. That'll be like 7 votes.
I've said for a long time, I would never take that office. I would never take that position. I've seen how it ages people. It's not a job I would ever want. And I stand by the fact that I would never, and clearly it's a stupid point because no one's ever going to vote for me for president, but I would never, ever take that office. But I'll tell you what, if you were to ask me today, you can have Trump or Biden, or you can step up and you can be president, I would think about it. And it's the first time in my life that I've ever legitimately gone, yeah, okay, maybe. Like, I am that disappointed in our candidates this year.
Well, so little aside is I think I actually do understand why people are so voraciously in Trump's corner. It's the same mentality that any party line voter has, but it's specifically glommed onto Trump because in his first go around, Trump said, "Make America great again." And there was a whole swath of people, especially in like rural and kind of middle class America, who I think correctly ascertained that they were left behind. They were not being catered to, that politicians were going for the big cities, the big metros, or just like basically the upper class or the lower class. And they just didn't give a crap about the middle class. And Trump came out and just said, hey, you guys are America. I love you. And that's all it took. I mean, just kind of goes to show how, dried up these people were. And when you decide that this guy is for you, how do you get rid of that? I mean, most people go by emotion anyway. As long as, Trump doesn't insult them to their faces, he can do no wrong now. They're going to be with him literally until he dies. So as far as the Capitol riots too, but this is a side note. I mean, I was under the impression that really there was only one true attributed death with Ashley Babbitt. I have not researched this. I have deliberately, and this is going to sound awful, I have deliberately not researched it because if anything, I feel like it'll just muddy the waters more for me. Is it possible to get an actual, just truly neutral third-party analysis of that?
No.
Like in any way?
Even fact check that.
That's what I mean.
Which is where I eventually went to. A lot of it is not truly unbiased. It's hard to get a count. The one number that I think that I saw that was generally agreed to was somewhere to the tune of 170 injuries.
Okay.
As far as deaths go, that number is, do you count the police officers who committed suicide, weeks afterward? Do you count the one who overdosed the next day on amphetamines? Do you count the gentleman who had a stroke, one day afterward, who was pepper sprayed twice? Do you count the woman who was trampled in a stampede and then was okay for a day and then passed? Like, which ones do you count? Which ones do you not count? It's a lot of the issue that we have with COVID attributed deaths.
Right.
Everyone benefits from skewing the data one way or another, and there just doesn't seem to be any truly unbiased opinion.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess the reason I haven't researched is because of that, because I realized that I could I would just turn into one person on one particular little hill on those. But
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I can say for sure is that some of the quote the worst videos that I saw from that were touted by, let's say, Democrats or progressives or anti-Trump folk as the worst was nothing like some of the BLM riots and some of that stuff that was going on too. So my automatic knee-jerk reaction is that there's just no way the January 6th riots were that bad. There's no way. I mean, at least if you're comparing, if you were to tell me that, hey, should people have shown up and like, in en masse at the Capitol around the transfer of power? No. Duh. Hot take. I think maybe my first real hot take of the night. I don't know. I feel like most of the people who are listening to us would agree that at least one or both of these guys is silly. But my real hot take is if they were going to actually show up en masse, they should have actually done some bad shit. You just don't do that unless it's truly serious. Unless you're ready to actually like take some hands-on matters into your own hands. That the fact that they didn't, it was almost like the like half-assing it. Like you should have no-assed it or full-assed it, but all you did was half-ass it, and that was the worst outcome for the people there. I think they all believed because of what happened / didn't happen with the BLM riots and the arrests and no significant consequences. I think they believed that they would get not similar treatment, but like, it would be a slap on the wrist or something, that they wouldn't actually get in any sort of trouble. And I think that was the problem, was they still sort of trusted the system in a way for a lot of the people getting their sentences. But I'm just trying to sit there and think, like, why would I ever go to protest anything? I'd probably go protest first, but then my very next step, if I felt like it didn't do anything, was I would not be protesting the next time. You wouldn't know what I was doing if it was really that important to me. So I'm not there because you should be more worried about me,
I think my grievance with that, and I hear that argument a lot.
/ this new guy showed up and he's not FBI. He insists he's not, but he seems to know everything about how to get my plan done.
Right. That's if
your new friend has access to everything you need to get your plan done, we can
talk
FBI.
about that for a whole episode because that is some shady stuff that happened there. No, my take on that is that I honestly don't understand why you can say, this is not as bad as the BLM riots. This is not as bad as the lootings. This is not as bad as that. So it's okay. They're both bad. They're both. There's no comparing the two. I don't understand.
I'll fight you a little bit on this. I think there is comparing the two.
Sure.
But,
okay.
And one is certainly not as bad as the other. But yeah, if you were to look at it purely in a vacuum, no, it's not okay. It's not. You shouldn't have done that unless, quite frankly, you were willing to actually do something. Sorry. That's the kind of situation where you put that energy out. But most people are emotional. They just go with what they're feeling. They don't actually think ahead. So
sure. So if your oldest gets mad and breaks your TV, throw something at your TV to break it because daddy was watching the show and your oldest wanted to watch something and you said, no, I'm watching something right now. So they pick something up and throw it and break your TV. Okay. That's bad. We have to teach the child not to do that and express this is bad. You don't do this. This is not how you respond. This is not how you act. It's not okay. And then the younger kid watches this and sees it and sees what happens. And when they get mad, they pick up a glass and throw it against a wall and shatter it because they're mad. That's also bad. But do you look at that kid and say, you didn't do anything wrong. It's okay because you didn't break the TV? I mean, no, that's not how we handle this. Two different things that are both bad. One doesn't mitigate the other because it's less bad. If that's the case, then you know what? They're all okay because the Oklahoma City bombing was worse and the Civil War was worse than that. And, obliterating an entire race of people on this continent was worse than that. So nothing we do is bad. It's all okay because none of it is as bad as the worst things that we've done. So let's just live hedonistic, consequence-free lives and not worry about anything anymore. That is just, I cannot get on board with that logic. And I feel like that's what happens every time someone says this to me. Well, they're doing worse things for BLM. Yeah, they are. And that shit's stupid and bad too. But guess what? Just because those people did something stupid doesn't make your stupid any more right. And that's just, I cannot get on board with this philosophy. I can't do it. I've tried. I can't. I've tried to argue devil's advocate and take that side. I can't make myself do it with any level of success. I just can't get there. Man, I
Well,
should
it
drink
doesn't,
more whiskey and Coke while I do these podcasts. This is fun.
because you're all revved up now. It doesn't make it any more right, but it makes it less wrong, Tom.
Does it?
Sorry, I just wanted to see if I can get a better face out of you, but I couldn't this time.
Nope.
Maybe next time. I'm worried about you because that's the kind of analogy that I would use.
Well, you've been rubbing off on me. What can
And-
I say? That's why you can't leave the podcast. You're helping me evolve and grow, man.
I think that's the problem. I am rubbing off on you. I better get out of here. Save yourself. Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. I mean, it's one of those, but see, and this is where my, like, we've talked about it before, king for a day kind of thought process comes into play. Because for me, yes, I try to judge myself against myself or my moral code or ethical code or religious code or whatever other code. I don't sit there and say, well, other people did this and I'm being better than that, therefore it's okay. I don't do that. But at the same time, other people are a good benchmark for how you're doing. You know, if you only judge yourself against absolute codes, you'll never completely reach it. You just won't. We're human. We're imperfect. So while I'm not sitting there trying to say, well, this isn't as bad as this riot, so that makes it okay. I think it is okay to also say it does make it less bad, because that's, especially for a lot of people nowadays who don't adhere to exterior codes from themselves, that is the only thing they have to compare it against. And it should be, in a way, it should be treated that way. Like, yes, it was bad, but we should also acknowledge it wasn't that bad. You can still say no, but the punishment should be noticeably less, and it should be covered noticeably differently. And I think that's the issue, is it's just not. Everything's so hypercharged that wherever you go to get your news, this has been one of those problems with the internet, is that there is now a way to find something that gives exactly the view you want or exactly the view you agree with. And it would be nicer if maybe we only had 5 different channels for some of the major stuff.
So I hear what you're saying. And yes, it should have relevant context. If it's less bad than something else, it should have that context in the sense of when you are applying consequences, not as to whether or not it was okay. That's how I feel that matters.
Well, yeah. So here's a good example of this. Me and my wife constantly feel like we are terrible parents, right? I'm going to guess that you have plenty of those feelings yourself, of just like, man, I suck.
On a daily basis.
If you were only judging yourself against your own metrics, you'd go insane. You would. I occasionally will do my proverbial, as I like to call it, stop and smell the roses. And I like to say, no, look at how well my kids are doing, interacting with other kids, interacting with other adults, how our oldest is doing at school. We have to be doing pretty well, at least compared to everybody else as parents. We're for sure above average. And in my mind, that is an ascribable data point. It doesn't mean I'm going to settle, but it should be considered with things like this, at least when you're talking about how to go moving forward. So, bad analogy. You're rubbing off on me, Tom.
Already are.
Yeah.
No, strong disagree. Because what you're doing there is not taking the situation and trying to build yourself up. What you're doing is trying to exculpate yourself from something that you did that was wrong because someone else did something worse. You're using it as a loophole to justify bad behavior. And that's not how you should be doing it. Yes, you should be comparing yourself to yourself often. My daughter recently was very upset that she lost to me in a game of Crazy Eights. Was it Uno? I don't know. We played something earlier this week and she lost and she got really mad. She said, sometimes my little brother beats you. Why can't I beat you? And my response was, honey, you can't compare yourself to how other people do. That's not how you end up being happy or successful. You compete against yourself and you compare yourself to how you did in the past and you try to do better every time. And that's how you get there. And that's why you should hold yourself accountable against yourself. You don't use other people's worst actions to justify bad things that you did. That's the stuff my son
Clarification.
does.
I agree with you on this. Clarification. I'm not justifying bad stuff. I'm saying that
it's okay for me to not be perfect all the time,
Agreed.
because overall we're good parents. Or as my mother used to say, you just have to be good enough at some weird twisted level. So yeah, no, I'm not saying, oh, I did bad stuff, but other people did worse things, so it's okay now. But
But that's
I
what you said about the January 6th thing.
no, I did
Yeah,
not say that.
You
No,
did.
I said
You
it was
said it's not as
half-assed.
bad as the BLM stuff. And
Tom,
therefore,
when I say you should have no-assed it or full-assed it and you only half-assed it, does that sound like I'm supporting it to you?
that was one small facet of a multifaceted point that you made, sir.
Hmm.
That's like the Dolphins saying they had a successful year this year. No, I'm sorry, you didn't.
I am saying that it was not good what people did. I think it's been meted out, it sounds like, pretty badly just based on the visuals that I've seen. I'm not saying there should have been no consequences, but I'm saying that the consequences strike me on its face value as someone who's deliberately less informed that they're too strong.
Sure, and I can get on board with that. There's an argument there for that
But
I can entertain.
I have never said that those people were justified in being there. I can understand why they were there. I can understand why they thought they were going to get a slap on the wrist, if that. I but I can understand all these things, but I can't understand why people say that it's like the worst thing ever and a threat to democracy. That's equally wrong to say
Oh, I
too,
understand
considering
that.
all the other stuff there. But I've never sit there and said, "Oh yeah, it was totally justified." They, all things considered, they should have done it again if the cards go that way again. No, of course they shouldn't. What I was saying, which is maybe where you thought I was supporting it, was I was saying they shouldn't have been there protesting. This is my own woosah, because if I say it wrong, it's going to sound really wrong. If you personally, you as a participant in our society, were so thoroughly convinced that the election was stolen from Trump, then you have two choices. Either, well, three and a half. Do nothing.
Three and a half.
Right. Do nothing and just resign yourself to that's what's happening right now and that's the way it is. Other choice is see that things are going the wrong way. You can't trust the system anymore. You have to do your best to get out of the system, whether that means moving to another country, going completely remote or rural, just disconnecting yourself, trying to be completely as removed from it as you can be. Or you take what steps you can to fix it. We can talk all day about how justified, unjustified, moral, ethical, whatever fixing it might end up being, the actions that might have to be taken to quote fix it. But showing up to do what you think is a peaceful protest when you think they've already stolen an election from him, that doesn't fix shit. That's being like, that's you know what that is? That's United Nations. Hey, stop gassing children or we'll write you a very sternly worded letter. That does nothing. So that's why they shouldn't have done it. I'm not saying that it was right. I'm not saying that these people should have done something different. I'm just saying if they were really truly serious about it, they should not have been there. There were plenty of other things they should have been doing that were more functional, that were better. That's why it was a bad decision. If nothing else, without getting into all the moral, ethical grounds behind it.
I'm on board with that. I've heard that same argument used by a client of mine who's also a good friend of mine. Actually, we debated, I think it was the Baltimore riots. We debated that, and I was staunchly on this was stupid and is self-defeating and is not doing any justice for that cause platform. And his argument was essentially that, no, we are obligated to do something to fix this, and that's what it takes because nothing else gets it done. To which my point was, how is this fixing it? And we went round and round on that. But no, I understand that same justification is used improperly in a lot of ways, but I think it's correct. I think, to steal from National Treasure, which was an underrated flick, we are obligated, if we see our system being corrupted or we see it becoming tyrannical, we are obligated to rise up and do something to fix it. That is the very nature of democracy, is that is a government by the people and for the people. And if that's the case, we are actually obligated to do something when it no longer becomes that. Frankly, I think that point in time has passed us by. I think that the powers that be did a good enough job of kind of getting to this, I don't even call it a milestone. There's no way to go back now that I see. Until we hit a complete revolution stage, that leads in a whole lot of collateral damage and destruction. I don't see a path back. The powers that be were good at what they did. They got here very well, very smartly, and they're cemented in place now. And now we're stuck with the system that is going to progressively creep closer and closer toward totalitarianism.
Expicalidocious. Well, my counterpoint to you is that it was always going to go this way.
And you're probably right.
People don't react the way you need to truly fix a system until it's bad.
Yep.
Until it personally affects me, and it's to the point where it can't be ignored. It can still be ignored.
Yeah.
And I think that generally, I'm sure there's an exception. There's always an exception to every rule. But I think generally that's pretty much how human history has gone. Any major empire. I mean, ironically, America might be the exception because there was still the standing British Empire and there was not a direct, like, in-house revolution, if you will. But it did come from a certain, like, going across an ocean to a new land with new people, with new resources, with, I mean, for lack of better phrasing, actual, dividers, if you will, actual, like, lanes to differentiate things. And that helps set that stage. But I mean, things get bad before Bastille Day. That it's that you already get to that point. So I would contend that we just haven't gotten there yet. It may last longer because of everything else with the world economy and internet and everything else, like muddying the waters, but I don't think we would have gotten there yet. I think if we are past a proverbial point of no return and someone had fixed it before it got to that point, it would not be viewed that way, even by people who could see why the decision was made by those people. Like, let's just pretend someone went and what was the show with Kiefer Sutherland?
24?
No, well, duh, obviously, but it was the it was the one where he was like the Secretary of the Treasury or something. He was like 20th in line for the president.
Yep.
And they
Lone
all
Survivors? No.
Yes, yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Lone
I
Survivor
watched
was the book that was turned into a movie, but yes,
something like that. Yeah, I didn't, full disclosure, I didn't actually really watch too much of that, but same kind of concept. If someone did that, like a true honest to God, like reset, seeing where it was going, like, in a way, maybe did everyone a favor.
Gunpowder, treason, and plot. That succeeds.
Right, exactly. I don't think it ever gets viewed as a justified thing, even by good people, because it was not bad yet. My life was not bad. Someone just went and off these people. The best opinion you get is maybe you were right. That's it. So, I mean, so you have to get to the point where there's no going back and it's bad until everyone agrees that it was good to change the system. So.
Well, we've been going for an hour and 13 minutes recording now, and we've lost
how long
probably all of our viewers. So we've offended the Republicans and the Democrats and probably the minorities and probably the majorities and, everybody who listens to us. So
on that note, review us.
All right. You got dad jokes for me?
Yes, and I tried to keep it, well, not presidential per se, but I did try to be stupid with it based on founding fathers and all that stuff. So
that sounds presidential.
Yeah. Where did they sign the Declaration of Independence?
Of their names?
At the bottom.
There you go. Yep. Okay. Same concept. I'm good with that.
Right. Exactly. You were close.
So I've got two dad jokes because I can never just tell one. One is presidential in order. And it's real. This is how disappointed I am with these candidates, especially with Trump. God, I can't express how disappointed I am. That's the Republicans.
Isn't that so? I mean, like you are talking to someone who voted for Trump the first time, thinking, yes, narcissists will try to be the best president ever, and then actually voted for him again. I'll admit it. I voted for him again, being like, God, I can't believe I have to do this because it's just better than the other guy. And now I'm like more annoyed with Trump somehow than I am with Biden, with literally every single shit show that's come from him, with like the Afghanistan withdrawal. Like, I don't know how I could ever view someone worse than that, but I do.
Yeah, somehow. I'm with you. I'm firmly of the opinion that if he was alive, like I told you, I wanted a businessman to run the country and not a politician. I think that if he was alive, Steve Jobs would have made a better president than Trump. I mean, I know that's comparing apples to oranges, but
And I don't even like that idea, but I agree with
dad
you.
joke, and that was just a dad joke, and you just blew right by it on me, and you
It
went
did
serious.
because you got me stuck. Okay, but it is apples to oranges. I
All
get
right.
it.
I failed on that note.
That was good. Try it again for our editor.
No, we're good.
That was
I told her
good.
once.
Apples to orange. You should say apple to orange bands.
There's probably a better way to phrase that. The other one I have comes from my brother, who, as a show update, by the way, in episode 18, 17,
Yeah,
18.
when you said he'd probably buy a t-shirt and not listen.
Yes. Turns out he's listening. He's listening at work. And then he's got a colleague next to him. I think he's talking about it too and telling jokes with. So that's probably helpful. But he gave me one. And it's why should you never trust stairs?
I assume this is stairs like that you go up and down.
Correct.
Right.
Yes. Like a fixed,
Okay.
progressively inclined or declined structure.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yes. Why should you never trust stairs?
Correct.
This is one of those jokes where I feel like I've actually probably heard it before.
You probably have. It's probably on the cup I sent you, actually.
Oh, hold on. Let me go get something for a second. Because you never know where they're landing. You never know about the landing.
I like that, but that's not it. It's because they're always up to something.
Right. Figures. Because they're ready to get down.
Actually, that was the follow-up he gave me that I just didn't like as much as he did.
Yeah.
The follow-up was that they're always down to whatever. That's why you should
Right.
why you always like stairs. They're always down for whatever.
Well, considering the Death Pod episode, I think I said Switzerland was that. I was like, yeah, they're game for whatever.
I think you said those exact words.
Those rascally Swiss.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Sorry we got political and pissed you all off.
Yes. We'll
Sorry,
do it
not
again
sorry.
next week, just for funsies.
Yeah, next week we'll have something fun. We'll figure something out.
So yeah.
You know what? Next week I'll talk poker. Everyone except my wife and everybody else likes poker, but my brother and I are planning on a poker day out for mental health reasons.
It's funny you
And,
mentioned that. Everyone except my wife likes poker too, for some reason.
Well, my wife doesn't mind the poker. She doesn't like when I talk about it, and she doesn't care for it. It was her first critique on the podcast was stop talking about poker.
All right, but let's focus, everybody. Review us. Check out the Patreon. Finn.
I like it. I like it. Short and sweet. Thank you all for listening. We're approaching 1,000 downloads, and
Yes, we are.
we appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for the support thus far.
Parties.
All right. Catch you later.